Hello, I'm Gareth.
And I'm Shane, and welcome to Building Business Resilience.
This is a podcast from Sanctuary Financial Planning, which helps growth business owners and social media influencers achieve financial independence.
We're two passionate financial planners on a mission to seek out new ideas, tips and tricks to help you take control of your finances and run better businesses.
We delve into the true goals and aspirations of our guests in order to provide you with some real value and positivity.
Nothing outrageous, clear, simple, solid financial solutions. We also have a YouTube series to accompany this, and details will be at the end of the show. So let's move on to our guest.
In today's episode, we're going to be talking to Dean Cosker and Mike Hogan. Dean is the former Glamorgan slow left-arm bowler with over 20 years career at the club. He played 248 first-class matches, taking 597 wickets at a strike rate of 75.9. His top score is 69, and he's now match referee for all first-class cricket work for the English and Wales Cricket Board. Mike is the current Glamorgan right-arm fast-medium bowler who's been playing professionally at the club since 2013. He's played 155 first-class matches, having taken 594 wickets at a strike rate of 53.7. He's a top scorer of 57. He's currently waiting to see how the season pans out due to the current climate. Figures for the hardcore cricket fans, courtesy of Wisdom. We're going to be talking all things cricket, mindset, the future and resilience with Mike and Dean today. So without much further ado, let's get started. So gents, how are we?
Yeah, good. Good, thanks. Thanks for having us.
You're very welcome. Thanks for coming on board. What does lockdown look like for you guys?
Well, I've got a young family. I've got a 12 and a 9-year-old. Homeschooling is not going to plan. But actually, the PE lessons outdoors in the garden are actually more my thing. So getting Jack and Polly to catch a few balls, really. It's mainly PE that I coach. A little bit of cricket thrown in as well. So, but apart from that, working on the tan, obviously, and the weather's been pretty good. But apart from that, not much.
What's it looking like for you, Mike?
Yeah, pretty much the same. I've got an 8 and a 6-year-old. That was my daughter's birthday yesterday and my son's birthday today.
Oh, really?
So that's been,
Wow,
tough work, homeschooling, and sort of trying to keep a little bit of fitness together because no one knows when we'll start this year, start playing. But I think when we start, it'll be pretty much, right, you're back and you're starting in a week. So we don't want to be caught short there. So we've got a little bit of a weight set up in my garage and just doing a lot of running as well, just to make sure that I'm in decent enough shape for when we return.
Never mind that. The most important thing probably was trying to get the right presents for the last couple of days for two little ones who kind of get what's going on. But Christ, how many shops now were closed that you'd struggle for presents, paper, cards, for all the things for the birthdays, plus the party?
Yeah, luckily my wife is a lot more organised than I am, so she got in on Amazon before they started essential deliveries. So luckily, most of the presents arrived on time, so we're okay there.
Right, we'll fire into some of the questions then, shall we, Shane?
Yeah, I've got a couple of questions here. I'll throw it to the boys. They fancy it. I'm going to start with Dean. Reading up, Dean, it said you were playing in the 2000s and seemingly Glamorgan had a superb, formidable team back then. What was it like playing for someone like that or playing with the people that you played with?
When I first started at Glamorgan, sort of late 90s and then moving into early 2000s, we had one of the strongest Glamorgan sides or squad that we've ever had in our history at the club. So for me, coming in as a young player into that environment was a bit of an eye-opener.
Yeah.
But it also sort of gave me a few false beliefs as well, because moving later on in the career, I understood then that you couldn't win every single game that you played in all of the time. Yeah. But look, to begin with, we had some fantastic players. We had world-class players at Glamorgan at the time, which obviously helped our performances. The likes of Matthew Maynard, Wakar Yunus, Hugh Morris, and then moving into the early 2000s with the one-day success that we had. We had people like Matthew Elliott and Michael Kasparich, really strong Australian Test cricketers. And they were also good role models for us as well. coming into a bit of a younger Glamorgan side, but they were kind of well-established first-class cricketers, and they sort of gave us that belief in order to be successful, which was probably, if you looked at the Glamorgan teams in the 80s, was quite low on confidence, didn't really know how to win games of cricket. And that's what these experienced first-class cricketers brought to Glamorgan was that belief to win.
Yeah.
So it was a real positive environment that I was introduced to, and hence why we did so well trophy-wise.
Because had Viv Richard gone by the time you'd started, or because he was 90s, wasn't he?
Yeah, Glamorgan won a one-day trophy in 1993 down at Canterbury, and his final year was 1994. I had a summer contract in 95, so unfortunately I just missed out on Viv. But again, a similar character to sort of Wakar Yunis. These kind of trademark world names within cricket that kind of just really gave you the belief to win and learn from. There was a core group of Welsh cricketers: David Hemp, Adrian Dale.
That's right, yeah.
Myself, Robert Croft, Hugh Morris, Steve Jett. So there was a crux of us that sort of came through the system together, and then throw in a few, big influential overseas cricketers, and you've got a making of a good first class team, which obviously brought trophies.
Is that something like younger people grow up, and if they see people that are successful or have a winning mentality, the winners win, and it's easier to continue to win all the time because you're around those people that have been successful and you just feed off them? Yeah,
I don't know what Michael's thoughts on this are, but I'm a huge believer in that. If you've got a positive mentality about almost winning before you've got onto the park, and I think Glamorgan in the early 2000s with our one-day cricket had that kind of aura, going to the home counties, going to London and beating Middlesex and Surrey quite easily, because they actually feared us back in that day. We had some fantastic players. Just to go back on that point of creating a real good world-class environment, I think it's really important in cricket to have a lot of fun as well.
Yeah.
You're in each other's pockets for so long. And believe you me, we had some real big characters in that team that enjoyed a beer and enjoyed the good times. And when we won games, we celebrated well. But we all then switched back on into professionalism when we were playing. And so enjoying that mix of preparing well, but then enjoying the success as well is really important.
How does the professional game, I guess, differ now to that, Mike?
We don't have as much time away from the game. But it's still very similar. I mean, when we get our chance, when we win, we celebrate. It's similar to what Dean was saying there. We're in each other's pockets for so long. You basically spend more time with your teammates than you do your family.
Yeah.
For 6 months. I think it's probably a lot more professional in terms of the way people do pre-season, players do pre-season training and they're conscious about their fitness and about diet and these sorts of things. But I think the general idea, it's the game's still played a very similar way.
Yeah.
Games, the players still enjoy themselves the same. It's just probably the preparation but pre-season that's probably advanced a lot more than anything else.
And just to echo Mike's thoughts there, that preparation was completely different from when I made my debut in 1996 to when I finished playing in 2016. 5 beers and a curry during a game was the norm. Now it's protein shakes and Pilates, isn't it? So you just it's a completely different mindset. And back then it was accepted. Yeah. And now if you had 5 pints and a curry during a game, it's frowned upon. It's lack of professionalism. But to also add to that, when you're travelling around the country playing for Glamorgan in first-class cricket, now you've got dietitians, you've got statisticians, you've got 2 or 3 physios, you've got lots of different people travelling around with you. So that side of the game has become much more professional. Back in the day, you had a physio who was basically your team manager as well. We had a guy called Dean Conway. He was the lead physio and he was team manager. He was head of social as well. And And that was just the way it is. And Matthew Maynard was captain, and we didn't really have a director of cricket. That was it. So you had the team, you had 11 players, or maybe 12 with the 12th man, physio, and captain. And that's basically who ran the side. Now you look at, the team that Mike plays in now, you've got 5 or 6 or 7 different sort of staff members that travel with the team. So
that's the decision makers as well, I expect.
I came here in 2003. I see you came over here in 2013. I'm west of Ireland, so the weather wasn't a massive thing for me. One, what brought you here? And two, what was it like the first time you came over, weather-wise and stuff like that?
Yeah. So I was lucky enough to inherit a British passport off my parents. So the ability to play over here as a local was appealing, more because you could extend your career longer playing here than you could in Australia.
Okay.
I started quite late, so I wanted to play for as long as I could. And Marcus North was the overseas player at the time for Glamorgan, who was my captain in Western Australia. And he and Matthew Mott as the coach, I had a relationship with, so it was an easy transition for me to move from WA over to here to play, because I knew what I was coming to in terms of the captain and the coach. So it made it an easy transition. The weather, I remember my first training session, it was snowing, and we thought, so what do we do here? I said, well, no, we crack on, we get out there and off we go. And it was freezing cold. I had every layer of clothing that the club gave me in a cardboard box I had on. I didn't have a beanie. And I remember Mark Wallace was the captain, who's our director of cricket. He was the captain at the time. He gave me his beanie. And I could have kissed his feet for giving me that, to be fair. And that was the introduction into the Welsh weather. But it got better, and
not much.
Well, it's been good so far.
Most people will want some quick ones. Either one of you first. Dean, highs, lows, funny moments.
Highs in my career, obviously making my Glamorgan debut, 1996, coming pretty much straight out of A-levels from school. Making my debut versus Lancashire, 1996. Another high was probably receiving my county cap in 2000. It's quite an honour to receive your county cap. It kind of shows loyalty and service to the club, and sort of being a mainstay in the first team as well. So that was really kind of something that I was really humbled by. Another last couple of highs really was touring with England A to the subcontinent and Africa.
Nice.
Fantastic experiences. And winning trophies at Glamorgan. So sort of 4 things, highs in my career, really.
Do some lows then.
Losing two Lords finals. It's called kind of the equivalent of the FA Cup in football. So we got to the final in, I think it was 2000, when we had a strong one-day side, lost to Gloucestershire.
Yeah.
And then more recently, when Hogs was playing as well, we lost to, who were we playing? Notts in 2014. So losing 2 cup finals at Lords was a bit of a hammer blow. Sort of mid-2000s, we went through a bit of a rocky stage after being so successful in early 2000s. Sort of mid-2000s, we were going through a massive transition where we lost a lot of our senior players. Money was tight. Glamorgan bought the ground. There was no finances coming into the club. Commercial were looking to kind of expand, and the playing staff kind of was quite skeleton-like. So we struggled a bit. So we were getting hammered every week, and as professional sportsmen, losing week in, week out. I think we finished bottom of pretty much every competition. So kind of mid-2000s was quite tough. And then another low point for me was probably losing one of my best friends at the time, Tom Maynard, son of Matthew Maynard, in a tragic accident. But he had a huge influence on the younger guys at Glamorgan, and to lose him at such an early age, such a talent as well at Glamorgan. I think it took the whole squad a good year or so to kind of just rebalance themselves and start actually performing again after that. So 2012 was a really tough year. And sort of funny moments, really. Look, I think professional cricket and I've highlighted it a little bit before, was that you meet so many characters over the years. And look, from touring with England A, myself, I toured with Andrew Flintoff, Graham Swan, Rob Key, all real jokers, real good characters. So those are kind of, and there are lots of funny moments there. And more recently now with Glamorgan, you had, I think, Will Bragg. Do you know Will Bragg? He was...
Yeah.
We know Braggy.
Disgusting human being as far as a hygiene point of view. So I changed next to him for about 8 to 10 years. And he was a filthy animal. So just a constant, ridiculous smell about him. So that kind of funny things. Gareth Rees, another highly intellectual guy, but a bit of a know-it-all and just was never wrong in any kind of argument. So playing cricket for a living, you meet all these different personalities, characters as well. But I'm going to I'll tell a quick story about, there was a game in 1997. Duncan Fletcher, championship winning year, highly successful season, but this one gloomy afternoon in Abergavenny, 1997, Duncan Fletcher, our new coach, came over. He was a former Zimbabwean cricketer, but he had a very stern way about him, very serious, and obviously he was trying to make a good impression to Glamorgan. And this was one of our kind of first times we've seen Duncan Fletcher in action, so very, very serious anyway. But we had two players at the time, Robert Croft and Tony Cotty, quite experienced players, fantastic cricketers, but they were also the kind of practical jokers at the time. So before we went out to play, Robert Croft and Tony Cotty would trademark cut socks. So your casual socks when you put them on after the game, and so they'd cut the bottom of the socks. We'd all go out to warm up. And then at the end of the day's play, we'd all come back, we'd have showers or whatever, and then, the guys would put their socks on and it would all be very, very funny. But this particular day, it was a really, really hot day. Duncan Fletcher, I think we were getting hammered as well in that session. But early morning, they cut Duncan Fletcher's socks. Myself, Gary Butcher and Mike Powell, and I think Wayne Law, the younger guys in the team, saw them do it. So we were expecting Duncan Fletcher to react as he did. Anyway, finished the day's play, all showered and changed. The last person to get changed was Duncan Fletcher. We were all sat around in the changing room. And as you can imagine, Duncan Fletcher got his sock, put it on, halfway, and it didn't stop at his foot. He ended up pulling it all the way up to his thigh, all the way up to his groin, and he just looked around, and there was just deathly silence, apart from this little West Wales cricket called Wayne Law, who was giggling to himself. I think it was one of his first games. Anyway, he didn't play for Glamorgan ever again after that because Duncan Fletcher thought it was him. And then Robert Croft and Tony Cotty obviously looked very, very sheepish, but Fletch was he was not happy with that whatsoever. And I think probably did end up getting Wayne Law sacked by the end of his stay. So, but yeah, good characters and funny times.
That's brilliant.
The funny times you can look back at now and laugh.
Yeah, you can.
Brilliant.
Mike, highs, lows. Give us a few funny stories, or a funny story that's recordable.
Highs, yeah. I mean, everyone, as Dean said, making your debut, I think, is quite special. But I remember I made my debut, or my first class debut at the MCG in Melbourne.
Oh.
It was quite a big deal for me because I never thought that I started quite late at 28 when I made my debut. Never thought I'd get the opportunity and managed to. I had a really good game at the MCG against some Australian Test players were playing with and against, and it was just a bit of a surreal moment. So it always sticks in mind that event. And then I guess moving into Glamorgan, like Dean said, playing in the Lord's final, 2000, I think it was 2013.
Yeah, okay.
Playing in that game, yeah, so really special. 25,000 people at Lord's packed. We had our chances to win that game as well. probably should have won it if we took our one or two catches we dropped. If we had to take them, we win the game. So I had our opportunities there, but the whole crowd, I think, predominantly Welsh crowd as well, which was exciting. They were singing. I mean, I didn't know what they were singing, but I was singing Welsh hymns, and it was really good atmosphere to be part of. Yeah, and that was a special moment. And I guess there's a few performances in my first year at Glamorgan where I guess, especially early, where I still believe that Australian cricket is probably harder cricket to play than it is here for a bowl with conditions, weather conditions, but the pitches are generally
harder,
a lot better. And I think my stats were probably a little bit higher than what they are here because of that reason. And I don't think people necessarily knew what they were getting, I suppose, in just a standard cricketer. But yeah, a really good game on a flat wicket against Gloucester. They had seven for a CB with the bat as well, and just those sorts of things where people start taking notice and realise, what they're getting, and then you start getting a bit of recognition. So just showing people what you can do.
Yeah,
I guess.
Yeah.
Low points. 2017, 18, but that sort of year, I was the captain of the club. We went down a bit of a route of trying to get some experience into some young players. We didn't have a great deal of experience. We didn't have a great deal of sort of senior heads in that side, and it was a really tough year. Pretty well knowing that the 2018 season we were turning up to get wiped off the park. We couldn't compete, and mentally, I think particularly mentally, trying to come up with ideas, trying to come up with sort of ways to motivate 20-year-old cricketers who are just starting their career when they've been beaten in 2.5 days for the last 3 months to get up and try and perform really, really took it out of me, really got the better of me. And I think I've said this a few times before, but luckily, I didn't know it at the time, but I didn't realise at the time. But when the director of cricket took over and relieved me of the captaincy, it was the biggest weight off my shoulders that there could have been. It would have finished my career, I think.
Yeah.
Pure mentally, I was shot. I couldn't. There just wasn't a way to get through, to find something out of players. We didn't have any senior experience apart from myself and probably Chris Cook at the time. So yeah, that was the most challenging, the toughest, I guess, 2 years of my career.
Yeah.
So now they've bought 3 or 4 players and we're fine again. So yeah.
Yeah, it's sometimes those little changes, isn't it? And taking the pressure off you. I'd be inclined to say probably the pressure of the captaincy affected your performances as well. I expect yourself individually.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, I mean, I still did okay. I still bowled well enough, but I just wasn't functioning at 100%. I think it was missing things on the pitch, missing things in the game. Taking it home with you was a big part as well. So those sorts of things, and then you want to, I think, leading into the next year, you want to make it right. You want to get it right, and whereas maybe the best way to get it right is to take a step back and understand that whether I was good at it or not, that it wasn't good for my mental health, really.
No, I can imagine. And I guess it's probably not just the pressure you put on yourself, but it's probably the pressure you get from reading some of the papers and the fans, I guess. And I don't know, do you on social media, do you kind of read that, listen to that?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it was. I mean, it was directed at the club as a whole. Yeah. It wasn't sort of individually based, but that makes you want to want to improve the situation as well. So everyone, you either you read everything, or you don't read anything, and I tend to read a lot. So it was hard work. That was really mentally straining.
These videos that we're doing called building business resilience, and I suppose the word there is the resilience. How are people getting through this unprecedented time? How are they managing through being business owners, working and stuff like that? But they're people that can do it in their office and stuff like that. And I suppose with you guys, and with you as well before, Dean, you probably have a mental toughness that others may not have, because your work is in the public eye. You're out in the middle of the field, and your day's work could be going horribly wrong, and you have to try and change it, or you have to be mentally strong to be able to adapt there and then to get through the working day on the cricket pitch, I suppose.
As a cricketer, you've got so much time on your hands, and you go through so many different emotions through when you arrive at the ground to when you finish the day's play, whether you've had a good day or a bad day. All your stats and all your performances are in the public eye. Yeah. So whether you've taken a 5 or 5 wickets, or whether you've scored naught, some guy in the street is going to pick up the paper the next morning and read those stats and make a judgment on you. Yeah. And that's just the way of professional sport. Stats are there to be criticised, or to be fed back in a positive way. Now, as a sportsman, and how we, I guess, create resilience about that, is just trying to have that kind of consistent level of behaviour. Yeah. Whether you're on a high or whether you're on a low, I think if you can remain consistent with your own behaviours, then I think that kind of stands you in good stead to be kind of mentally strong, resilient, strong to criticism, especially negative criticism. So I think as sports people, we do have lots of emotions, and we do get very personal about our performance, but it is highlighted in the public eye a lot, and you have to have your own ways and your means of dealing with it. So I used to like to be quite structured, and when I arrive in the morning to when my pre-match routine was quite structured. I like to do my practices at certain times, then come in and go through all those little idiosyncrasies I have as a sportsman, and then try and do that and repeat that as consistently as I can. Now, with this lockdown, with COVID-19, you kind of find yourself being like, well, I need a bit of structure here to actually get through the day. Else my mental health is going to really struggle. So I try to maintain a little bit of structure as well to my life now, away from my role. I don't know how you feel, Mike, but
yeah, I mean, I make sure 6 of the 7 days a week I've got something on. Yeah. Alternate days I'll run sort of Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, and I'll do weights. Yeah, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and I've found this week, because this week is my rest week. Yeah, so to speak, that I'm really. I don't know what to do. The kids, trying to teach the kids school, and that's sort of not gone out the window, but that. So we used to go, right, we'll come down at 9:30, and then I'll get both of them sorted by midday. And now it's we'll go down to 11. I'll just have a coffee and I'll sit around, and that, I guess, that structure. When it's hard if you can't keep it in place now, when you've got no one telling you need to do it. Then it makes it quite tough. This week off, so to speak, is I've found I'm going to need to find some motivation, I think, to get back into it next week.
I suppose it doesn't make you, as much as you were saying, Dean, about breaking it down. Is it almost putting this into a business person's perspective as well? As if you have a good day, you can't read all the papers and think you are the best player in the world, against if you have a bad day, you're not the worst player. You look, as much as you dissect each game and look at what's gone wrong and improve that, which will improve you, you look at it over maybe a season and see how successful you are. Because if you pick out that you were great on that day, then you aren't the best in the world. And if you just have a bad day, you don't pick on that totally as well.
Yeah, 100% agree. And some advice I got given by one of my mentors back in the day was that just imagine someone was coming into the ground to watch you play cricket and try and give off the impression that you were having a good day, and then they would see you perform, whether you got naught or whether you scored 100. If your body language and your personality and everything else remain constant, I think that would be a really positive message that would come out of that situation. I guess my message is that just to remain as level-headed and as consistent as your behaviour as possible. Whether you've scored 100, whether you've got naught, whether you've got naught for 100 bowling, or whether you've got 5 wickets. Yeah. I think your emotions, and I guess you could relate it to business as well. If you've had a really good day, next day was really bad, but if your emotions remain constant and similar, I guess that can only be a positive thing about your performance over the longer period.
Yeah, makes absolute sense. Makes absolute sense.
So that's how that's sort of how I personally got through bad times.
Yeah, that's good.
Remembering the kind of good times I had, and I wasn't a bad cricketer. I just had a bad day, or my luck wasn't in that day, or I knew I'd prepared well enough to keep performing. I just had a bad day. That's quite.
Everyone has a bad day in the office, don't they? But they come home. Whereas the likes of you guys, it's probably on television and everyone sees it, and it just emphasises it more.
I used to find that keeping a diary of every day's play, the way I prepared, from what I ate, what I did, how I prepared through the day, funny things, strange things that I remember that I was doing whilst bowling. And I'd write everything down every day, and then it sort of obviously went, especially early in my career, it went in waves. And, for the first 3 years of my career, I did that. And I could look back on what I did, what I didn't do, what I did differently through certain periods. And I think that sort of set me up for understanding my game and understanding what I needed to do when it wasn't going right for me.
Yeah.
What I had to change, or whether I'd just get through it, talk to, like mentor bowling coaches, or talk to one of the coaches. I think that's, if you've got that relationship, that open, honest relationship where you can go to your boss or your coach and say, look, this is where I'm struggling with. And I guess the ability to have a look at footage and mirror footage against what you did 2 weeks ago, and say, right, this, and someone say, this is what you need to change, and then you're right, okay, we're back on it. But that diary of being able to look back 2-3 weeks and say, right, this is what I did on this day, this is how I get out of this rut that I'm in.
Yeah.
And that's what people have now, Mike. I know we even, Gareth and myself, have them, the diaries of exactly that, of, X amount of things that you have to do for the next day. At the end of the day, dissect your day. What have you done well? What went wrong? How did you feel? Silly things like, how much did you drink in water? Because then, if you don't have X amount of litres and you look back, I drank every day those last weeks, I didn't feel bad. So you guys are ahead of the time. What people in business are doing now is what you guys have been doing probably for quite a long time in building up the mental toughness.
Don't underestimate the communication between line managers, bosses, your own colleagues that work in the team. I think talking about being an open and honest is huge, especially me now moving into a different role. I've been doing that for the last 4 years. But the support mechanism that the ECB now have for your well-being is slightly different to a professional sportsman. Professional sportsman, you're out there on your own, essentially, apart from your teammates. When you're working in a kind of business environment, which I am now with ECB, you've got a different support mechanism around you. At times it can be very lonely as a professional sportsman, because you're almost talking to your kind of inner ego about, well, why didn't I perform that day? Or what's going on here? Or how's the wife feeling? Or there's loads of different things. Why didn't I bowl well? Why did I get out like that? So I think don't underestimate communication amongst your teammates, amongst your work colleagues, amongst your bosses and line managers, because it is the old phrase, a cliche. It's good to talk, though.
Yeah,
it does help. It does help.
Mike, testimonial year, and coronavirus kicks in.
Yeah.
Wow.
On hold. Yeah. Well, yeah. I think, I think there's a far greater amount of things to worry about than my testimonial year at the moment. But yeah, it's a bit of a shame. We had a lot of good things organised, but we'll wait and see what happens. I think the Glamorgan board have kindly voted to defer if we're allowed to. So I think it needs to be cleared by the ECB and I think the HMRC as well.
Okay.
And if that all goes to plan, then we can defer it to next year. So that's good news. Otherwise, I'll be trying to flog off some 2020 Michael Hogan testimonial tyres if anyone's interested.
We'll put them we'll put a link at the end of this.
A link at the end, yeah. Special offer.
Yeah.
Cleaning on Amazon.
So, where Dean's got into a new role, are we allowed to ask? Are you looking to the future? What is the plan for X amount of years or so down the line, or do you not even think about that yet?
No, it's certainly on the agenda. I mean, you can only. I'd love to play for as long as I can, but I mean, it's starting to get harder. There's no question. I'm 40 next year, so it's starting to get tough. And so there's some things around, things I'd like to explore. I think Dean did it in the years just prior to his retirement, where he was able to explore some opportunities outside the game, away from the game, while he was in the off season, while he was still playing, just to see which fields he wanted to get into. So I think this year and next, in the off season, I'll look to do a few things around different areas, I suppose, and try and work out what I want to do. But luckily, the ECB and the PCA have got some good things in place in terms of transitioning out of the game. You're not just, right, thanks for your time, here's a month's pay in lieu and off you go. They've got some good things in place to set you up for a few, 3 to 6 months out of it to keep yourself on your feet while you look for future employment. So, there's some few things on the horizon, but coaching is an interest, but the uncertainty of that role is concerning, because I think I'm ready to actually just settle down into one job for a period of time without any constant looking over your shoulder, making sure you're doing everything right. So otherwise you'll get the hook. So there's some different things. I've got a diploma in garden design and maintenance as well. Okay. So it's an interesting thing. I did it more out of boredom than anything else, but I enjoy it. So that could be something to move into.
I need my garden landscape soon, so I can call on you for that, don't I? Mates rates and all that.
Yeah.
That probably leads us, Dean, into your transition from being professional cricketer into the role you're in now. Tell us a bit about that.
Yeah, I retired 2016 now, so I've been out of professional sport for 4 years now. It was strange. It was tricky. Look, I was lucky enough to have a career spanning over 20 odd years. So, and then I sort of broke it down into 3 stages of my career: how to prepare after cricket. So when I'm sort of late teens to sort of mid to early 20s, I was really focused on just performing for Glamorgan and doing well and as a professional sportsman. Then you sort of, you get married, you kids, and you move into a different phase and different responsibilities. And then moving into your sort of 4 or 5 years, coming towards the retirement age of mid-30s to late 30s, you have a different perspective on life and your life after cricket.
Yeah.
So I sort of tried to start preparing 3 or 4 years out of when I thought I might finish my playing career. And I did that a little bit to what Hogs has been doing off-season. I tried to get myself out there in little work placements, whether it be at a solicitor's firm, whether it be working at Glamorgan in the commercial department, whether it was just doing odd jobs around the place, and just getting a feel of what actually I enjoyed.
Yeah.
And the big learning for me was what actually I didn't want to do that. I wanted to stay well away. And I always came back to what I knew, really. Obviously, first-class cricket, professional environment.
Yeah.
So then I had a bit of a life choice to make, and I knew that these roles that I'm in now, and they were expanding that role. So a match referee for first-class cricket. So the timing worked for me pretty well. Retired in 2016. They were making 5 more roles of what I'm in now in 2017. And that role was going to be starting in March 2017. So having finished in October 2016, I actually transitioned quite smoothly into my next career after cricket. But that was also due to what I planned for the last 10 years of structuring my life and also shadowing while I was still playing, shadowing match referees while I was still playing. So I had the experience going into that interview process. When I wanted that role, I knew exactly what the role entailed.
Yeah.
So again, it's preparation, planning, knowing what I wanted. But towards the latter end of my career, I was quite focused. Right, that was really what I wanted to get into.
Yeah.
Yeah. Tough process though, because strange. You're out of your comfort zone.
Yeah, yeah.
I think it was the first interview I'd had for 20 years, which is quite a daunting affair as well. So it's it builds up a little bit of resilience in you, and it takes a lot of character to sort of just put yourself out there, because I was lucky enough to have a career at that for that long. Going into something completely different is quite daunting, and I'm sure it is daunting for fellow cricketers as well now.
Especially if you play the team game, that transition from being around teammates all the time to probably going into either a very solo type role or a very small team environment, which you might only have on certain occasions, isn't it?
Yeah, and it takes a certain character to be able to adapt to that. What you miss is the camaraderie. You miss the banter of the change room. A lot of ex-sportsmen say that.
Yeah.
That's the thing that they miss, and it is true. It's just, but our lives as pro sportsmen is very structured. You arrive at a ground, you see your teammates, you have a bit of banter, you go out in the field, you perform, you have a beer with them afterwards, and then you go home. So your life is very structured, and it's change your room environment. Moving into my role for the last 3 or 4 years is slightly different, but I still work within a team of 9 or 10. So there's 9 or 10 of us that you still have a little bit of camaraderie with, because they are former cricketers as well. Yeah. So I haven't gone completely away from that change room mentality, but you're still kind of working solo, but within a team environment. Yeah. So it's not completely different, but certainly strange.
Go back to what we said earlier about it's the resilience, and what a lot of people will have to be doing now. Maybe somebody's working in an office job for 20 years and there has to be an adaptation to doing something totally different outside the comfort zone, and they just have to get on with it because of what's happening. So, it's the mental toughness, as you said again. Right, last thing, boys. I'm conscious we kept you for such a long time and it's much appreciated. You touched on it probably earlier, Dean, but we'll ask you guys again. Anything that you wish you had achieved? Start with Mike this time, because even though anything you would like to still achieve.
I've got to go past Dean. He sits 3 wickets ahead of me and he's got 3 more first class wickets than me, so I've got to sneak past him.
Wow.
Number one, we've been talking about it for 18 months, so I've got to get that done. I'd like to win something with Glamorgan, whether that be one day T20 success or promotion. I'm happy with any of them or all of them. But yeah, I'm happy with. I'd be happy with something there, and I think I would say that most professional cricketers played, or most cricketers that have played would say they'd love to play international cricket.
Yeah,
and that's something that I didn't get the opportunity to do. But I mean, yeah, to be in the top 20 cricketers in your country. I've had a crack at 2 countries, couldn't make both of them. But to be in the top cricketers, yeah, it would be something special. But unfortunately, didn't get that opportunity. But I've had a lot of great times on the journey anyway.
I suppose you take another look at it in a different way, a more positive, Mike, that how many people would actually love to be a cricketer for their county, and you guys have been lucky enough to do it and still to be doing it. So you're ahead of, it might be 20 people that do international, but there's thousands or tens of thousands that would love to be in the position of you boys. So you've probably achieved something superb.
I guess in any position, in any job, if you don't set yourself goals to further yourself, then you're probably looking to do something else.
Yeah.
So I guess that's the way I've always looked at it. I wanted to be as best as I possibly could and get as far as I could in the game. And I didn't quite crack international cricket, but as I said, it's been a lot of good fun.
And more fun to continue for another season or two.
Yeah. Well, hopefully, if we ever get outside, really.
Yeah, if we ever get a season started, I guess, isn't it?
Dean?
Yeah, similar to Hogs, really. Not making my full England appearance was probably one of my biggest regrets. I had some really successful seasons, and I can imagine I was quite close, maybe a few one-day international squads, and when Glamorgan were quite successful, I think my name was sort of branded around the press a little bit. One of my biggest regrets was not to play for England, but look, I was lucky enough to tour with England, England Lions or England A back then, and play with and against some fantastic cricketers. And probably that was the biggest thing. But again, it's I'm not going to lose any sleep over it. It's very proud of what I achieved in the game, and winning trophies was very important to me as being a one club man. So winning trophies at Glamorgan was very important to me. Probably not winning a T20 final. I think after winning one-day trophies and championship, if I look back at my career, not winning, we got to finals day once or twice, not quite getting over the line in the T20 finals. That was probably one of the regrets as well. But also more recently at Glamorgan, probably the 20, Hogs mentioned that era, that year that we played 2013, 2014, that was quite a strong team as well. And not winning a trophy with that squad was a bit of a letdown. And also we had a very strong side in 2010. So sort of not quite getting promoted into the first division with that bunch of players as well. So kind of individual things there where we had strong teams and not actually celebrating success with those group of players was a bit of a letdown too. But look, I'm being quite harsh on myself really. I had a fantastic career. I'm very proud, very humbled to have that opportunity, as Shane rightly mentioned. There's plenty of amateur cricketers and Wales minor county cricketers and second team players that don't get the opportunity to play cricket for a living and professionally. So I'm very humbled in the way that I've played the game for so long.
Well, that was a great chat with Dean and Mike. So what have we learned today? Some key takeaways from this episode. Structure is a key to professional sport and can be pulled through to a business. Professional sport has evolved massively since Dean started playing to what it is today. There is now more emphasis on having the right coaching team built around you. In business, you need to surround yourself with the right people also. Head over to our website, www.sanfp.co.uk, or check our YouTube channel, search Sanctuary Financial Planning in YouTube for more information and insights. Well, that's it for this episode. Next, we're talking all things rugby, mindset, business, MMA, and the jungle with James Haskell. You can hear that whenever you get your podcasts. Plus, don't forget to click subscribe and get all the latest episodes as soon as they arrive. Until next time, thanks for listening.